Today we're going to be looking at writing about language devices. In the foundation paper, you will be asked to look at one text and write about the language that has been used and its effect. In the higher paper, you will be asked to compare the language that has been used and its effect. Look at your exam performance graph. How well did you do in this question? Higher paper students should look at question 4, the 16-mark question. You can see here that this student only attained 4 out of 3 out of the possible 16 marks. So that student lost quite a lot of marks. It's really important, especially on the higher paper, for this amount of marks that you score as high as possible as you can in this question. This is worth as much as one writing task and the most marks for any of the questions. So it's really important that you do this well. For the foundation paper, you need to look at question 3 out of 12. See that this student only got 7 out of 12, which was quite a typical amount in the year 10 exams. So we do need to make sure that we're attaining as highly as possible on this question. How to write about language and effect? Well, words are always chosen for effect. Think about the words that people choose in the following situations. A formal discussion with the head teacher, a discussion with a small child, a news report on television, talk with friends. Think back to your spoken word essays. In each situation, you choose your talk to match the situation. This task is just simply asking you to pick out words that have been chosen carefully by somebody else and try to explain why they have been chosen. When we're asked to write about language, we're looking at the words that have been chosen for effect. You may be asked to look at a long article or a short article or compare two articles. That's for the higher students. You should write about your ideas using PEED and fill the space allocated for the answer. These two final points are very important. For the higher grades, we need to move beyond a simple PEE into the explore and the deeper thinking for those C, B, A and A star grades. The more detail you go into here is the way you're going to get up towards those top grades. If we just stop at PEE, that'll leave us at a D. Also very important to use the space allocated for the answer. That is very important. If you don't use all the space, you're not going to score the top marks. So, when you begin to answer this question, you should annotate the text for language features. Here we've got evidence of emotive language. When will society decide you're on the scrap heap? Now, scrap heap is an emotive word, and don't scrap people. Again, they've used the emotive word, and scrap age discrimination. Again, they've used that emotive word again. An emotive word just means a word that's got lots of emotion attached to it or makes the listener or reader feel an emotion. Words like death, crisis, disaster. We've got here a rhetorical question. When will society decide you're on the scrap heap? So it's asking the reader a direct question, getting them involved with the text and making them feel as if they're being personally spoken to. We've also got the repetition of the word scrap. Don't scrap people, scrap age discrimination, and it also appeared earlier in the text. So here's an example of a PEED. How have language features been used in the text? Now this is a typical exam question, so this is the sort of thing that you will be asked to write about. Well, a language feature that has been used is emotive language. Now that's for our G grade, just to do a simple statement about what's been said. Here's our evidence. The emotive language that has been used is don't put people on the scrap heap. Now for my explanation to get me to a D. This means that you should not throw people away onto a rubbish heap when they are old. So a simple explanation of what it means. Now this is where we're going to get to our higher grades. The exploration, going back into the evidence and having a look for something else that we can explore. So the word scrap heap makes you think that old people are being thrown out as they are rubbish and no good anymore. Now some deeper thinking about the effects of that. The word scrap, and I think perhaps that should have been in inverted commas, suggests that people are the worst form of junk and absolutely no use at all. It is effective as it is asking people not to throw old people away in this manner and makes the purpose of the poster clear. The explore and deeper thinking, and the deeper thinking is in blue, so think of the sky, so reaching for the sky, are the parts of this answer that will help you to get a grade C and above. Try to answer the original question in detail in your deeper thinking. You can see I've summarised why this is effective in the deeper thinking and just trying to give a bit more detail about that. I've gone on to explain again about why the rhetorical question is effective, so you could read that through in your own time, but you could see again that I'm using P, evidence, explain, explore, deeper thinking again, and the deeper thinking explains why that device is effective and what it does. And I've gone on again to say about the use of the repetition, and I've used point, evidence, but this time I've put the point and the evidence in one sentence. The repetition of the word scrap is effective, and then the explanation comes further along in the sentence too. Exploration, deeper thinking, and again summarising in my deeper thinking why it's effective and going into detail about that. So read those through carefully to get some information about how you should write your PEEDs about language. If you imagine all those handwritten, you would have written quite a lot towards the 2 pages that you're expected to write in the exam. So some useful language features to remember and revise. Try and remember each of these so you can look for these in the text. Rhetorical question. So how would you like it? Emotive language. Words such as crisis, death, tragedy, disaster. Repetition. So repeating words for effect. It could be a word or a phrase that's repeated for effect. So it's disgusting, it's dangerous, it's diabolical. Or how would you like it if I did that to you? How would you like it if this happened to us? How would you like it if we acted that way? So it could be repeating the phrases over and over again for effect, or words for effect. Triplets, very similar to repetition, and it's just using them 3 times. Alliteration, words that start with the same sound, so like Big Bad Billy. Formal language or informal language. Now, when you use formal language in newspapers, informal language when we're trying to be friendly, when we're trying to look as if we're in a more casual, relaxed atmosphere. For example, you wouldn't find a news reporter using casual language because it wouldn't be acceptable. Now, for the higher students who've got to compare language features, you can draw a Venn diagram again to compare them, just like you've been doing in class. So when you draw a Venn diagram, you just simply list the features of one text and then simply list the features of the other text and put the features that they've got in common in the middle here. So for text 1, to help the aged text, we can see we've got rhetorical questions, repetition, emotive language, direct address, and it's a fairly informal style in the way that it uses the word scrap heap, which is it's a slang word. I also use the advertisement from the presentational features PowerPoint, Have You Hugged Your Feet Today? You might be asked to compare language features from a longer piece of writing, so it won't always be an advert, so it might be worthwhile practicing these at home. But in this advertisement, we've got, again, emotive language, a formal style this time, rhetorical question, direct address. So some of these features are common to both. We've got rhetorical questions there, so they go in the middle. So the things that the 2 features have in common go in the middle, and that gives us a good starting point to write about. So it's now easy to write a comparison of the language used in the text using PEED. Simply start from the red section in the middle. Both advertisements use a rhetorical question. That's our point. Text 2 asks, have you hugged your foot today? Evidence. And now an explanation. This is effective as it directly asks the reader a question and involves them in the text. Exploration, the direct address of you, also adds to this effect as it feels the reader is being personally spoken to. I won't read through all of the PEED because you should be getting quite used to how to write these now, but I will point out that then we've compared using a connective. So text 1 also uses the rhetorical question of and then goes into the PEED. And at the end, on the deeper thinking, I'm summarising that both of the texts use rhetorical questions and direct address to directly involve the reader, and then just summarising very quickly what the effect is and going into a bit more detail if I've got time, just to say anything new that I've not already said. So top tips for the language question. Revise the list of language devices earlier in this slide. Spend a few minutes annotating the text, foundation, or texts for hire, because you'll have two, that you have been asked to write about. Write about the features using PEED. Very importantly, make sure you explore and think deeply, as this will get you the higher marks. For the higher students, draw a Venn diagram and use connectives to compare. As an extension task to secure your knowledge, foundation students, you could find an article, advert or front page and write about the language features using PEED for 25 minutes. Aim to write 2 sides of writing in this time. For higher students, find 2 articles, adverts or front pages and compare the language effects using PEED for 25 minutes. Aim for 2.5 sides of writing.